Thank you. I appreciate it. I always get worried about the praise before I start, in case you don't agree. But hopefully this is helpful. But hi, like she said, my name is Jared Ritter. I'm the broker of Ritter Real Estate. We got a large crew of Ritter people in the room, so thank you for being here. In case you don't know who I am, I'm the guy who wears the crazy jackets, yes, Bright Blazer Broker. Started this personal brand several years back, but most importantly, I get to broker all of our agents. We've grown to 5 offices and 45 agents now. We're in Cape, Jackson, obviously Perryville. We're moving right next door, brand new office, super excited about it. So if you know anybody who wants to lease the other side, please send them our way. And then we're also about to start a remodel in Chester, Illinois, obviously really close to here, and have an office there, as well as we brought on a Dexter office at the end of last year. So spreading ourselves out a little bit. A little bit more about me. I, by trade, was an English teacher, so I have a degree in English education. It's always a fun fact. We spoke to the Perryville CEO class yesterday at the high school. We love going and talking in that class, and Alex and I have done that for 2 years in a row now. And I went around the room and had them guess my major, and of course no one got close, which is to me kind of funny. It's always finance or marketing or something like that. So most people. An engineer. I was like, do I look that smart? As a first, I was very happy to hear that. Take that compliment and run. But yeah, I was an English teacher. So some of today's presentation you're going to hear, naturally I like to provide definitions, and when we think about words, I'll probably provide a couple book suggestions that are from people a lot smarter than I, so you can take this and continue to dig in. But with that being said, today's topic is design to win. How to set goals with intention. Okay, I know this goes another hour. If I finish up before then, I won't just stretch it out. Try to respect your time. So thank you everybody for being here and having me back. Super exciting. I love to do this kind of thing. Natural teacher, right? Once a teacher, always a teacher. So hopefully if you just take one thing away from this, to me, that'd be a huge win. If you don't know me, I'm a major goal freak. I'll talk about kind of how I do things here in a second. But the biggest thing about me is I've been writing my goals down every single day for a long time. Today was 1,957 days that I've been writing my goals down consistently every single day. So that's what we're talking about. I love today's title. Thank you, Alex. We're going to probably redo this presentation several times to different groups just because I really like how it came out. Hopefully you do too. If there's bad feedback today, I'll never do it again. But let's start with this word. So remember, the title was Design to Win, How to Set Goals with Intention. So I'm going to revisit both of those kind of ideas. What does it mean to win? What does it mean to have goals with intention? And we're going to start with intention. Okay, so your first definition of the day. Design for a particular purpose or plan. A course of action for one's purpose, objective, or again, having a plan. I think everything boils down to having the right intention. I don't care what it is, whether it's goals or setting an appointment, going on a date, whatever it is. It's what is the intention, right? And I think that really matters. So how can we focus on this talk today, you leaving here feeling like you're pursuing what you want, therefore having goals with the correct structure and actually having an intention behind it, okay? I could force every single person in here, not force, but I could plead with you today and say, get a piece of paper out, and before you leave this room, I want you to have 10 goals, and they're gonna be amazing. And then what happens? We all go put the sheet in our vehicles and never look at it again. That's one way to do things, and I could just teach you about structuring goals. It's not gonna matter if there's no purpose behind it. It's not gonna matter if there's no plan behind it, if there's no intention behind it. And again, some of the definitions for intention, designed for particular purpose or plan. So let's try to make sure that relates to you today. A good way to start that is kind of talking about the PPF structure. We talk about this all the time at our company, creating personal, professional, and financial goals. So this is the absolute perfect way to start aligning this with yourself and asking yourself, okay, how do I make this fit me? Okay? It doesn't mean you can't try to, copy somebody else and get ideas from someone else, but if it's not designed with intention to fit you, it doesn't really matter. So we like to break this down into 3 different categories. I told you guys that I write my goals down, and we separate that out into 3 categories. I write personal goals down, I write professional goals down, and I write financial goals down. So when we think about personal goals, these really need to be focused on our passions, right? What hobbies and interests do we have? Some of those categories you guys can see: travel, hobbies, sports, relationships, health. Newsflash, all adults in the room, this is the hardest one every single time. For me, for agents that I have meetings with, likely for you, because sometimes we get in this whole like, oh, I'm goal driven and that means I'm going to hammer my profession and I'm going to make a lot of money. And quite frankly, that's great and all, but like we forget about this one sometimes. It's the easy one to leave off. Now, can your goals be full circle? Absolutely. One of the reasons you may want to make a lot of money is in order to help accomplish some of those personal things or provide for your family. And that's like, okay, that's kind of a personal goal too. Completely agree with you. But my encouragement to you today is nothing else, is like, keep a list in your phone of the things you enjoy. I started doing that. I know it sounds kind of weird and foo-foo. That's okay. But every time I started to realize, oh, I sincerely enjoyed this thing, I started putting that in my phone. So I remember that. I'm actually making a note of the things that I personally like. Why? Because that matters. You kind of like those things for a reason. You were made that way. You're designed that way. And you shouldn't feel bad about liking the things you do. Like I told the CEO class yesterday, unless it's drugs, there are bad things for you. High school students need to hear that too. So if it's a good thing for you, yes, keep that on the list. Okay. But yeah, come up with some personal things. Okay? Come up with some things that you enjoy. Put some goals, and you'll find out how to structure here in a second, but I think it's worth noting, like, we need personal goals too. Okay? Like, what trip do you want to take? Alex is had a goal for a few years now, and she's got that one scheduled, right? So this stuff works. Again, travel, hobbies, what interests you? And next would be professional goals. These are things focused on accomplishment. Maybe it's a certain award at your company that you want to win. Maybe it's a certain recognition, learning a new skill, taking on new responsibility. Okay, there's always more we can take on. There's always something to learn within our industry, and a way to improve yourself. That falls under that professional category. Maybe it's a certain amount of sales you want to do in 1 year. Maybe it's a new target you want to hit in your profession. Maybe it's a new line you want to carry in your job, in your industry. To me, those are the easy ones, right? Like I said, it's easy to be driven professionally, okay? And by the way, maybe take this back and introduce it to your workplace. That probably tells you a lot about your boss, your employer, if they gravitate towards this and want to integrate goals into what you do, or maybe you are the boss and you want to integrate goals into what you do. Just to back up for half a second, that's why I love the personal one so much. When you bring it to the workplace. I don't know about you guys, but before, like, our company, or maybe the people that now work at our company, I don't know if they ever had, not to speak for them, I don't know if they ever had an employer that went over their personal goals with them before. I don't know if you've ever had an employer that went over your personal goals with you before. This adds so much to the workplace, where it's like, hey, if nothing else, you bringing me your goals and us talking about your personal goals has to show that we care in some capacity, right? And I think you don't find that a lot in the workplace. So again, professional. This should be focused on accomplishment for this portion of your goals. What do I want to achieve? What's the next thing on the list? And then lastly, financial. This should be focused on motivations. I love the 3 categories there. Net worth, passive income, and paying off debt. Okay? I think every single person in this room, I don't care how much money you make, how much you don't make, what you owe, what you don't owe, every single person needs to know, like, what is my net worth? What's my balance, per se? My personal self, if I treat me like a business, what is my profit and loss? Okay? And if you're like, that's great, Jared, I'll start that in a year or two. No. I want you to start it now, because I did whenever I wasn't worth much either. And it's been so inspiring to go back and look at a personal finance statement from like 7-8 years ago. I'm like, daggum, look what we've done. Look how we've grown, et cetera, et cetera. So I would encourage you, even if you're not going to be happy with how it looks, you can get one from basically any bank, because when you do investments, they want to see your personal finance statement. You can ask me. We have a blank one we keep on our, what we call process tracker for our agents. We can email it over to you as well, whatever you need. But kind of find that kind of stuff out and then make some targets based on the information that you have. Passive income. Maybe you're getting to a point where you want to start dispersing money somewhere else that eventually brings something in passive, okay? Everybody in here works really hard for their money. I know that. I believe that. You wouldn't be here trying to learn about setting goals if you weren't. So what can you do to eventually give yourself some options and some choice with bringing in passive income? Passive income means it comes in no matter what, whether you're sleeping, whether you're at the beach, whether you're continuing to work, whatever. That should be a goal. And if that statement I just made about passive anything and investment scares you, it's not a bad thing. It's a goal for a reason. You don't have to have all the answers when you make a goal. Quite frankly, when you make the goal, it starts to force you to ask better questions. And the quality of your questions determines the quality of your results, okay? So on the passive income thing, one more little nugget I want to put on that, which was in my brain 2 seconds ago. But yes, you work hard for your money. There it is. Brought it back. You work hard for your money, right? So the problem is, I don't care what age you are, what happens when you stop? It's this hard-earned income. I put time in, I make money. I put time in, I make money. I put time in, I make money. Okay, well, there's a big part of my business where if Jared stopped selling, 5-7 years ago, that was not a good thing. The lights had to be kept on somehow. Okay, so you have to put yourself into a position where if you wanted to be hands-off, what happens to your business? That's a hard question to answer. If I left for 6 months and I said, staff, good luck. How's the business going to look when I get back? We got some freaking awesome people. Like I'm so confident that if something happened to me, the things here would keep going. When it was, just me and it relied on my hard work and I'm going to put it all on my back. That was my philosophy, right? I'll run through the wall. Well, what happens if Jared stops? Nothing good, right? If it was just me. So same thing relating this back to your investments. When you decide you want to slow down a little bit one day, what is still coming in? So the whole point of the rat race, I had to work this in somehow, right? Wouldn't need a plan. The whole point of the rat race is you take your hard-earned money, pour it into a passive vehicle that can pay you passively over time. And that's how you get out of it. Cool? Okay. What's next? So this is on Google, right? You could find this. This is a very common way to structure your goals. I'm a common guy, all right? I'm not the engineer that the kids thought I was. But so the SMART method is an easy, common way to structure your goals. And let's just go over that very quickly. So your goals need to follow the SMART method. It needs to be specific, okay? Every single goal you make needs to be specific. The example I've used, because I've heard it in the past a few times and had meetings with people, and is I want to read more. If that's an example, I just deja vu, said this to the kids yesterday. If I want to read more as a goal, is that a good goal? Well, my argument would obviously be no. Because what does your read more mean? What's your read more versus my read more versus Alex's read more? She read like 72 books one year, or 66.
69.
69, wow. Okay, so that's a lot of read more. What does your read more mean, right? And is it magazines? Is it books? That's not very specific, right? Is it audio and you want to actually read books? You get my point there. Is it measurable? Okay, if I have a certain amount of real estate volume that I want to sell in a 1 year's time, I need to know how much that is, okay? You have to be able to measure it at some point at the end of the goal and say, did this happen or did it not? Goals are awesome because they kind of force you to answer hard questions, provide some reflection. Is it attainable? I had a goal of mine which writing it down felt, and I'll come back to this in a second, but it did not feel attainable when I first wrote it down, okay? It was a big, lofty 30 million real estate volume in 1 year goal, okay? I'll come back to that in a second. However, I had a brand new agent, first-time agent, first year, first meeting with me, came in and we were discussing goals, and he said he wanted to sell 30 million in 1 year. It's like, no offense, I love lofty goals. I really, really do. You need to be able to push yourself. That's not attainable. It's just not, right? Is it possible? Sure. It's not attainable though, in the grand scheme of things. So we do need some checkpoints along the way. You shouldn't be afraid to have some milestones along the way. You need to be able to rack up these wins and allow yourself to get there, okay? Also, in case I forget to mention this later, you can have what I would call short term as a 1 year goal. You can have 3, 5, 10 plus year goals. So I'm not saying trying to hit this high number, this lofty goal is a bad thing, but maybe it's not going to happen year one. You can write this down if you're taking notes. The kids liked it yesterday, so we'll see how the adults feel. But most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10. One more time. Hello, welcome. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10. So a lot of people, like, they want to force this big goal on paper, and it's like, I'm doing the goal thing and Jared's crazy, so I'm going to be crazy. And then it's like, oh, well, I didn't even get close, and forget goals. That was stupid. I'm never doing this again. When realistically, it's all about compounded effort. If I can just continue to do the right things every single day, 1% better, 1% better, 1% better, that's how wealth is created. That is how good things are created. It is this thing over time that I do the right efforts every single day. And that's why most people underestimate what they can do in 10 years. My goodness, you guys can do the craziest, most amazing things over a 5-year span, over a 10-year span. And if you're willing to work on yourself and your goals in your industry, your education, whatever that happens to be for you, if you're willing to work on that on a daily basis, which is why I write my goals down every day, one of the reasons, guys, that 5-year goal that you thought was 5 years and you were so concerned, is it even 5 years, can become a 2-year goal. We just can't give up on the daily. Okay? So, relevant. This is important because it should matter to you. It's pretty simple, right? Is it relevant to you? Is it relevant to the rest of your goals? Does it connect in some way? Is it something abstract that doesn't really connect? But if it's important to you, it's relevant. Pretty simple. And is it time-based? Okay? A goal without a deadline is just a dream. Remembered it today. Struggled with that yesterday. A goal without a deadline is just a dream. Okay? If I'm going to say, well, I want to do this. Well, that's great, but when? We all want to do things. We all have aspirations. We all have things that we want to accomplish, right? Did I break something? Oh. I almost broke something. So it needs to be a time-based goal. I want to read this many books this year, right? It's all right. I want to read this many books this year, and it means it happens this year, right? It's a 1-year goal. Otherwise, we just never simply make things happen. So a goal that I would say is I want to sell X million dollars of real estate volume in 2026. That's a solid 1-year goal, right? Okay. Past tense. I'm just going to go over a couple of my favorites as far as structure goes. I know you can Google structure. ChatGPT is probably way better at this than I am, okay? But to me, one of the most important things about how I structure my goals is writing them in the past tense. Should you copy and paste this to a billboard? No, people will think you're weird. It's like, wait, did they really do that already? No, I just like the past tense for my goals, okay? So it's not something you really advertise because it makes it look like it's already been done. But for yourself, that's what I want. I want it to look like it's something you've already done as you write it and as you read it, okay? This is a crazy thing. I told you I'd come back to the 30 million goal I made, right? The first time I wrote that goal down, I have sold 30 million in real estate volume in 2020. First time I wrote that down, I was like, that's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. That's very hard. No one in this county's ever done that before. It's ridiculous. Now, let me back up. Remember the SMART method? I said it has to be attainable. I had done 20 million in volume. I had done 23 million in volume. I had done some big numbers already where I wasn't trying to go from 0 to 30. Okay? So it was attainable for me, even though it was a little stretched, a little scary, a little out there. And again, I write my goals down every day. And I'll touch on that next slide. But I wrote this goal down. Day one, actually we're going to go there now. Writing it down in the past tense, right? I have sold this much in real estate volume in the year 2020. First time I wrote that down, I was like, this is stupid. No one's ever done this before. It's ridiculous. Day 2, same thoughts. Day 3, same thoughts. Day 4, I should probably stop. This is pointless. Day 5, should I just make a new goal? What's going on? Day 6. Day 30, I'm like, you know what? Is it possible? What would it take? And I start asking myself these questions like, what would it take to get there? Right? And I start doing the math. I start going backwards. Okay, 30 million divided by like a $220,000 house average. How many deals is that in the year? Okay, how many deals would I have to average a month? How many buyer appointments do I need to set? How many listings should I sell this year in order to... I start just talking through the whole thing and working backwards. And all of a sudden, this repetitiveness of writing the goal down every day, all of a sudden, the idea of, is this possible, starts to be possible. And the past tense, okay? Let me tie both of these slides together. The past tense of writing that down just does something different, okay? And that's as scientific as I get, okay? So I'm sure you can bring somebody up here and says, oh yeah, it does this in the cognitive blah, blah, okay? I'm a simple man. But, Dr. Joe could probably come up here and do this whole presentation better than me. But writing in the, he's chuckling at me. So writing it in the past tense is huge, okay? When I was writing this big 30 million target down every single day, I'm like, not really believing. But when I'm writing it in the past tense, it's like I've already accomplished it. I start to feel and act like someone who can achieve that goal. Now, if I wrote it down once and forgot about it, probably not. But the repetition, the daily, the asking myself these hard questions, all of that starts to add up to force my realization that, hey, maybe I can become the person that can achieve that goal. Okay, more on that in a second as well. Rocks, okay, this is a very important kind of addition here, because I know it's like, well, great, Jared taught us how to structure goals. He didn't really tell us anything about how to help us accomplish them, okay? So that's a whole nother class. So you don't get to learn that today. No, I'm just kidding. Gino Wickman, first book recommendation of the day. He has a book called Traction, which is amazing. We've read it as a staff. I've read it by myself. If you're, again, simple-minded like myself, and you don't want anything like nitty-gritty, here you put these equations together, Traction's a great book, okay? It's very straightforward. He provides some more structure. One of those things that Gino talks about is the idea of rocks, okay? Rocks are your thing that if you set a goal, or if you're at a company like us, we have like a vision statement. We have like our big, audacious, scary vision statement. And then every single year we come up with a year-long vision statement that helps us get to the big one, right? So what we do in our quarterly meetings is we ask ourselves, in Q1, what are the most important things that need to accomplish in Q1 in order for us to hit this 1-year plan, which therefore helps us hit the 10-year plan, okay? That's what rocks do. So we would take a whiteboard just like this. Oh, I like this glass board, man. I kind of want to steal that. We take a board just like that and we brainstorm till we can't think of anything else. What needs to happen in Q1? Go, right? And then we just list things. We try to get a list of like 12 to 15. And then we ask ourselves, and as we're going, it kind of almost becomes obvious, right? But then we ask ourselves, okay, we got 15 things here. We need to get it down to 5 to 7. What does this make you do? It kind of forces you to react to what is the most important things, what needs to happen in Q1. And once you boil it down to those 5 to 7 things, those are your rocks. There's this synopsis, the best I can do from Gino Wickman, okay? But read that book, it's great. Then you have these rocks, these 5 to 7 things, and you assign them. Okay, maybe it's just you and you're just doing this activity. Well, guess what? They're all yours. But if it's a staff of 5 or 6, well then who does this rock most line up with? And who's going to claim and own that and bear the responsibility for this thing happening? Doesn't mean you can't help, but it does mean like, hey, I'm going to be responsible for this and try to get it accomplished. Easy enough? There's rocks. So let's revisit this. How do we be intentional about our goals? Okay. Again, the name of the talk was Designed to Win, How to Set Goals with Intention. So how do we be intentional then? All right. We kind of went over some structure. Hopefully that was helpful. To me, you got to answer two questions that I came up with for today's talk. Number one, why do these goals matter? Hopefully you heard me kind of mention that a little bit earlier in the way that we're talking about this conversation. But number one is, why do these goals even matter to begin with? To me, by asking that question, you're being ultra intentional about your goals. And I think if you can find some of that and make it important to you, if you can even find the emotion in what that goal would feel like once it's accomplished. Maybe you're trying to raise dollars for your child's education. What would it feel like on the day where you were able to write that check? Where you were able to send your kid to college? Where you were able to provide the new car? Like, man, that is very intentional. It makes it a little bit less about, oh, I'm gonna do the PPF thing, I'm gonna do the SMART method. Like, it's cool and all for a day. But if you can actually find the feelings, the sentiment behind why you came up with that goal in the first place, that's how you create purpose behind this. And that's exactly why good days, bad days, and different, you're gonna wake up and write your goals down. I touched on that, right? The past tense, writing goals down, the everyday thing. I said this, but I've been writing my goals down for almost 2,000 days in a row. It is my North Star, 100%, okay? I don't know what to do without writing my goals down. I actually was, snowstorm recently. I don't know if you guys got that, but I was actually secluded from my goals. And I write my goals down every single day. I was like, what am I gonna do? Well, good thing I've been writing them almost 2,000 days. I brought out a sheet of paper and wrote them from memory. 26 different goals. Just boom, boom, boom. That's where you want to be. But it is that everyday practice with intention that makes this a complete game changer for your life. And I completely, fully believe that. If you're willing to write your goals down every day and have a purpose and intention behind it, it becomes so ultra important. Okay? And like I said, it becomes your North Star. When I'm writing my goals down, almost every single day, I write a certain goal down and I'm like, put the pen down. I need to text somebody because I've done nothing for that goal. And I'm like, shoot, I forgot to follow up with so-and-so. If I wasn't writing my goals down every day, I would not have that. I would not have that practice. I would not have that intention. I would not have that reminder of, if I'm really going to hit this goal, I better step it up. Yes, you can create some action items and some rocks and have very specific intention behind it. I get all that, and I hope you do. But again, it's kind of like, let me stay on the straight and narrow every single time I write my goals. That's what it does for me. So doing that with intention. A cool thing else about writing your goals down every day is sometimes you realize what is important and what's not. There's some days I've written my goals down like, this goal is so serious. This goal needs to be accomplished. And then 3 months later, because I write my goals down every day, I'm like, it's not that important anymore. So you get rid of it. How do you know that if you're not in tune, if you don't have intention, if you don't have purpose behind writing your goals, and quite frankly, whether you visit them or not? So, I think I only got to the first question on how do we be intentional, right? First one, reminder. Why do these goals matter? How do we be intentional about our goals? Why do our goals even matter to begin with? And then number two, I said I would allude to this earlier. Who is the person this requires me to become? Okay? If you had that financial slide and you want to pay off a debt, if you want to buy the new vehicle, if you want to provide something for someone, if you want to just simply follow a new morning routine, new evening routine, some of that's a culture shock. Some of that, there's a reason you haven't done it to begin with, right? I did the carnivore diet last year, right over 80% of the entire year. That's a freaking commitment. That was a culture shock. That was a change. My whole year looked different, right? It looks different than it does this year. But there has to be intention behind that. And I need to realize what kind of person I'm going to become in order to achieve that goal. I got to be schedule oriented. I got to be dedicated. I got to find the right places. And that's a conversation with yourself. Like, what is this going to look like for me? And what kind of person will it take to accomplish this goal? Okay, if I'm truly going to accomplish this, I got to learn more about X. If I want to be more educated in the financial realm of my business, well, then I need to be more studious in this category. If I'm going to accomplish this new routine, I got to be willing to set the alarm 30 minutes earlier. If I want to practice this new skill, man, I got to learn how to be patient. And I'm not a patient person. So it really brings some questions to the forefront about what type of person I want to be in these crazy audacious goals that I just came up with. What kind of person will that require? That should be fun. That should be encouraging. That should be enlightening, because you should want to grow, right? You should want to accomplish something. You should want to become a better person. The worst phrase in business is, we've always done it this way. Oh, well, we've always done it that way. That's called staying in the mud, staying in your lane. Not always a good thing. But if you're able to question each other, question yourself, and ask, well, why do I even think that way? What in my life made me think this way? Why do I have this viewpoint? Why do I have this policy? Why do I have this made up, oh, it has to be done this way? That's all made up. 100% of that's made up. Someone told you to believe that way, right? This was perfect lead in. And to take that a step further, you can also add consequences and rewards to your goals. Okay? What is this new person going to become? What is this new person going to look like? Well, how do you make that better? How do you hold yourself accountable? And guess what? If you work for somebody in this room, there's things to follow. There's rules to follow. Growing up, when you went to school, when you went to church, when you went to wherever, even good things have rules. So something I prominently like to preach is, if everybody else in your world is going to give you rules, you might as well give some for yourself. Right? I love to, well, of course, we all like to reward ourselves. I had 2 donuts on the drive in, okay? But also, I love to hold myself accountable. I like to punish myself. Does that sound weird? I'm getting some weird stuff. This guy's a freak. I knew it. I knew that blazer when he walked in. But I like to hold myself accountable. I do a lot of push-ups. I have a new daily routine of that. And sometimes I lose count. And I could just skate by. And for some reason, 55 and 65 sound the same in my brain after I've been sitting there and then stop thinking. So I could just continue on and say, oh, screw it, I'm at 70. I make myself go back to the lowest number every single time. That's a consequence. That's like, get your head in the game, stupid, right? You gotta have rules for yourself. You gotta have rewards for yourself. You gotta have a system for yourself. And you can't be afraid to make it a little harder on yourself. Somebody else is going to. So why don't we have rules for ourselves? Everybody else has got a rule for you to follow. So why don't we have rules for ourselves? How are we doing? Good? All right. I only have a couple more slides. How do we win? That's worth mentioning. Okay? Again, I love this topic because it designed my whole talk. Designed to win. How to set goals with intention. We just talked about intention a whole lot. Let's talk about winning. Okay? And what that means. Second book reference of the day, former English teacher, you're welcome. Tim Grover. He wrote the book Relentless, very popular book. He also wrote the book Winning, which isn't good as Relentless, but it's still really good. I would suggest you read both. Winning, it kind of takes winning and creates a personality for it and challenges it and discusses it. So Tim Grover, if you don't know who that is, I've heard him live and in person as well. You think I'm a freak. This guy's a freak. He was Michael Jordan's trainer. He was Kobe Bryant's trainer. He was Dwayne Wade's trainer. He's been everybody's trainer. Now he does the same for businesses. He's a great mindset guy. He's no excuses type guy. He takes that a little bit extreme. So in his book of Relentless and Winning, I believe in both, he mentions this idea of winning. and he asks all of his athletes, it's almost like a qualifying question of if he'll work with him or not. What does winning mean to you? And he tells this story, and he discusses several people's answers, not by name, but all the different responses he gets. Like, hey, what does winning mean to you? And usually he gets like, the same kind of answers, and it's about passion and trying your hardest and blah, 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 which are probably great things. He likes to share Kobe Bryant's answer to what does winning mean to you? And it was a one-word reply, and that was everything. What I want to say to you today is I agree, winning is everything, but you need to define your form of winning. I'll be honest with you, I've been a little hard-headed on this topic in the past. We have a mantra that we end every one of our banquets with for our real estate company, our annual awards and celebration banquet. And this was the mantra that we came up with, or I guess I should say I came up with for this year. Why? Because the honesty of it is I don't think I've always been very good at this. I don't think I've always been very good about what winning means to me. I think I've understood the hard aspects of winning, the ruthless aspects of winning, but maybe for the first time in my life, I took a glance at how my commitments affect other people. So everything is everything. What you allow into your life, what you choose to write down for those goals, my belief is that your everything, your definition of winning, should be 100% in those ideologies, be 100% in those goals. It doesn't mean you need to be everything to every person, but it does mean that whatever you do, decide to make a goal for yourself, how you want to improve yourself, what intentions you want to have, you do need to be 100% in those things. Absolutely. Because those things you chose, those are your goals, and you need to be coming in at 100%. Everything is everything. Everything that you allow into your life is everything. Last definition for you. The definition of everything, one last definition, is all things, all that exists, and my favorite, all that is important. So designed to win, how to set goals with intention is very clear. Your objective, leaving here today, should be to ask yourself, what is most important to me? What am I going to allow into my atmosphere? What is it that I'm going to decide clarifies a victory? How am I going to win? And realize that everything that you allow into your life is what you need to treat as everything. There's no such thing as balance. Okay? I broke this to teenagers yesterday. I got them out the gate early. All right? We've been through this long enough now as adults that we already know there's no balance, or we would have found it, or someone would have wrote a book and we would know exactly how to find this perfect work-life balance. It's not a thing. Fun fact, that idea of balance isn't even written in the Bible. It's made up. We make that up to try to make ourselves feel better. The only way that you're going to find balance and you're going to find some kind of belief that the system's working is this, is you having goals, you being very intentional about what you want. These are your goals, right? Your personal, professional, financial goals, not mine, not your neighbors. You define what winning means. You define what everything means. And you define what is most important to you. That's all I got, but since I am here, we did want to let you guys know of our next Bright Beginning Summit. This is a event we hold at our Cape office, downtown Cape. This is all about how to become a real estate agent. If you like real estate, the idea of it, whether that's career related or not. I love just to talk real estate till I'm blue in the face. You're lucky I didn't sprinkle more of that in today. You're welcome. But March 26th, that is our next one. It is at 6 o'clock downtown at our office. Hey, I like the mountains in the background. Look at that. That's a summit right there. All right, that's all I have. Can I help answer any questions? I feel like we're in a small enough room where if somebody wanted a question or two, I could try my hardest.
I was talking as a teenager.
No. They got all the answers. I'm just kidding. All right, well, thank you guys. Appreciate you having me.